called
wow.
A Treatise to My Learned Friend, the Attorney at Law.
Okay.
So this is in audio form, and I got to write this when I was still a student, doing my first degree in Uganda Christian University, Bachelor's of Law. And now I turned it into a book, but it's also a collection of sort of essays, just like what you did here. So I would
Very
like to
good.
bring this an audio book. It's the
Thank
first
you.
kind of the kind we have in Uganda, by the way.
Yeah.
And it was incredibly done, so you may want to take.
Yeah.
And then I also want to present to you the History of Busoga, the audio version book as well.
I think that's wonderful.
Right. So this is the
It's
one,
amazing.
what we call the Busogas, we call them fine pencils in God's hands.
Uh-huh.
And so this is your friend, the one whom you probably met some time ago, the Y.K Lubogo.
Yes, absolutely. I think I sat with him for three times,
Wow.
and his picture is in this book,
Excellent.
and many references to his work.
Right.
It almost begins with a quotation from his book.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Also, Professor, permit me hand again, I know you probably have this, but this is the official one, the History of Busoga now in hard copy.
Okay.
And this is the book written by your friend, the great Y.K Lubogo.
Yeah.
And it goes back probably, I think it's coming to about 100 years ever
Yeah.
since. I was reading something about what the secretary to the East African Province Bantu Language Literature Committee said way back. He said the History of Busoga is a translation of the written work of Y.K Lubogo, which was written in Uganda between 1921 and 1936.
38.
Yes. While considerable effort has actually been made to produce a readable version, the objective of the translation is to preserve the content of the style of the original work, rather than produce the literal work. The facts and figures given were set forth by Mr. Y.K Lubogo have not been checked for, by the literature committee. It's a pity that such a long delay has actually occurred between the completion of the manuscript and the publication of the book. Nevertheless, it's fortunate that this really constituted literature committee has actually been able to produce for distribution a result of so many years of hard work by the author. Since there has actually been a lapse of time between the writing of the original work, the appearance of this edition. So this is a history book cover, and I brought it back recently because it had been listed as an endangered book.
Yeah.
And we had only 2 manuscripts, I think, in probably Makerere University, and the other probably with some other people who might not know. So we thought it prudent to bring it back into circulation. And so we're grateful today that the works of Y.K Lubogo, who lived arguably from 1894 to 1889, about 89, came back into circulation. So this is the history. We tried to put in some pictures as well. So please receive this.
Thank you very much.
I'm the grandson of the
Yes.
grandson of Y.K Lubogo, and so I brought it back into circulation.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you very much.
And I'm glad to inform that you interviewed him. a
You've
few
done
times.
very well, yeah. A
Yes.
few times it was very important because it was right at the beginning.
Mhm.
And I think he was very happy. I was living at Wayange Girls' School. He
Yes,
was very
yes.
proud of that.
Right.
I think they might have been created when he was on the Ruchiko,
Right.
and he helped
Yes.
get the school going.
Right.
And then he sent my wife to something like Busoga Day at the parade ground or the fairground.
Mm.
Right away he gave us elite seats, where
Mhm.
we saw the military parade. And
Right.
1966 was very interesting.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Professor, also, I told my brother, this is something that may be interesting you. This is something that is African of sorts.
Mhm.
It's a walking stick.
Yeah.
So at the advanced age, I'm sure some of you guys in wherever you are, even here, we use them as walking sticks.
Yeah.
So I thought this would be on behalf of the people of Busoga.
Mhm.
By the way, Y.K Lubogo, as you probably know, is a royal from Busoga.
Yes,
So
I
well,
know, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
on behalf of the Balamojis and also the people of Busoga, who we call fine pencils in God's hands, I would like to
Yeah.
present this
Mhm.
walking stick to you. It has the map of Africa, as you can see here,
Uh-huh.
and it has the 5 big animals in Africa.
Yeah.
So this is an elephant, as
Yeah.
you can see. This is a rhino.
Yeah.
This is a lion. It's probably a tiger or something like that. So these are the 5 L's, and this
Yeah.
is made out of incredible, wonderful wood. And I thought we would extend this as an appreciation to you from the people of Busoga.
Oh,
When you go
thank
back
you
to the
very
US and Michigan, you can show it and say this is something that we use in Africa for the old men, the elders. So I'd like to present this to you.
Yesterday I heard the word mzee.
Jose, right.
Yeah.
Right.
I wasn't used to that.
So allow me
Thank you
to
very
hand
much.
this over to you.
Yeah.
Yes, on behalf of the people of Busoga, but also
Thank you very
here from the family of Y.K Lubogo.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
yes.
I much appreciate it.
You're welcome.
It's a nice, solid,
Right.
solid wood.
Right.
Yep.
Ebony. It's called
Yep.
ebony wood.
Yep.
Right.
Well,
And these are some of my works. I was just telling you about the things that I've done. I have done about 70 books now. So these are some of my works. When you go back, you may want to look through some of the works I've done.
yeah.
And many of my works are available at our website, lubogo.com and
Okay.
sugenistlawapp.com.
Okay.
I was happily named 2025 Africa Legal Researcher in Africa
Okay.
by SMAG Africa, and also in 2022 I was given the Legal Innovation Africa Award. So most of the things are featured here, so you
Yep.
may want to take time to go through this.
Yep. So I should tell you that I very much appreciate this and your connection to the law. My father was a lawyer in Washington, D.C.
Oh, wow.
And he brought me up on the law. But
Excellent.
I wanted to skip a generation. But my son is a very fine lawyer, and
Okay.
he's now a law professor.
Ah, wow,
Yeah,
excellent.
assistant professor.
Okay.
He did work non-for-profit work for 21 years defending people who were on death row.
Ah,
He was
okay.
defending and
Okay.
appealing their cases. He won 2 cases in the Supreme Court.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Excellent. When I was one of the best firms in this country, Katende Sempewa, we also argued the death penalty case in light of Susan Chibula. And we were able to make a few changes in terms of the law, because by then it was almost mandatory for someone to, if someone had been accused of death, of murder or something, then it was automatic that they would actually be sentenced to death. There was no provision of it was shall, it was not may.
Yeah.
So it was almost compulsory for a judicial officer who presided over the matter to simply, sentence you to death.
Yeah.
So, but now it is, it's been, it's now a little bit dependent, it's discretionary. The judicial officer can actually decide about it.
Good, great, good,
Yes.
good work. Yeah.
Right.
So I look forward to looking through this and
Please.
finding things. Yeah.
Please have a seat and we have a chat, 1 or 2 minutes, and then we can have our discussion of some other things.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I will ask my friend here to have a seat, because I'm sure he may get and maybe, Professor, what I wanted you to help me go through is in light of the beautiful things that you've heard about the people of Busoga.
Yeah.
But particularly, we can begin by this, and also where you come from, what you do, and stuff like that.
Okay, we're recording. Yeah, I grew up in Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I think my father introduced me to writing. My mother was a social worker. He introduced me to caring about people. And so I went to university at Wisconsin, and then I went to London to study anthropology. I became very interested in how we might connect the fields of anthropology to history. And there was an old sort of African anthropology field. Many people in the colonial period were anthropologists. There was a lot of work done, and including on Busoga was a very famous place from the anthropological research. But there wasn't much history being done, at least in the universities. So I was interested in seeing how to bring these two fields together, and that's what brought me to go to the University of London to do my PhD. And my professor, I have to say honestly, my idea was I wanted to go to do research on the very early history of southern Morocco. But my professor said, no, that can only be done with documents. There are old men dying in eastern Uganda with history in their heads, and I should go do my research there. So I redirected myself, and I started studying Uganda around January 1966. His more senior graduate student who was just finishing, his name was Bethwa Awan Oga, a very famous Kenyan historian who taught at Makerere and studied at Makerere. He brought me a copy of his grandfather's book.
The History of Busoga.
Yep. And so I started studying it before I went to Busoga, and I arrived with my wife at Makerere on the first day, night in Uganda. It was May 24th, 1966. You know the date that the Kabaka was driven out.
Right, the Kabaka crisis, yes.
Yeah. And we were staying at the Makerere guest house, and the people in the government, some of them thought I couldn't do research, some thought I shouldn't do research, some thought I was a spy. Why would I come do this research if I weren't a spy? But there were some others who said, yeah, go ahead, as long as you stay in Busoga. You can't, things are too rough in Uganda and Entebbe and Kampala. So I spent the year in Busoga, and we found very quickly a position for my wife at Wayange Girls. I think I'm pointing in the right direction. Girls Junior Secondary School, and she very happily took on the position, and that was my base for my research.
I see. Wow.
And I went all over the place. I interviewed more than 200 people about the past, and Y.K Lubogo helped me a lot by talking to me about his research, about the writing of his book, and I include some of that in this book. Things that he didn't write about in his book, which were explaining how he did the research, and he was very tentative about the book. I say he finished in 1939 because he went back and made corrections. But it was also written by these people in the foreword that he finished in 1938. But there's some corrections made that I figured out that could only have been made the next year.
Okay.
And then he told me that he wasn't sure he wanted to publish, that it wasn't finished. And I began to identify with him because I didn't think I would ever finish this book and publish it. And it is kind of unfinished. I think it's unfinished, and people should continue the work. And so, I tried to continue his work, Y.K.'s work, and people should continue, like William, continue doing the history.
Right.
I don't think there's one story to tell about the past of Busoga.
Indeed, excellent. I get to see something interesting. Actually, I have a copy of this book. Someone sent it to me. This one.
Yeah.
In Ghana. I have it here in my library.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think I put you on the list.
Okay.
Because you can see even here,
I see my name here, right.
identify
Yes,
you
with Isaac Lubogo,
because
right.
I had found your book and your
Right.
interest, and I made sure that you got a copy of it.
Right. Thank you very much, Professor. I actually received the copy.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Tell me something interesting. Why did you, of course, other than the fact that your wife was at Wanyang Girls, what do you find interesting about the people of Busoga? Something that is unique, over and above.
Yeah. So I'm really interested in the way that people live, organize their cultures or societies through dealing with these differences and contingencies and connections, moving around. People in Busoga moved around in the pre-1900s, moved around a great deal, and they took opportunities. I use the word Busenga for this opportunity taking, and there was a lot of shrewd interpretation, analysis of the situation. So I was interested in the problems that people had in having a history in such a complex setting where there were 68 kingdoms, small kingdoms, 68 kingdoms.
Right, I can see it.
Yeah. 68 kingdoms and 200 or more clans and thousands of mitala, and so it was. I'm interested, in how to deal with that complexity.
Right.
I'm also you can tell if you read this that I was also interested in how Y.K Lubogo dealt with your grandfather dealt with this complexity.
Right.
Because it's not an easy story.
Yeah. If I tell you something interesting about the history of that book, particularly the History of Busoga,
Yeah.
you will be amazed because before I got into the academia, I visited one relative of mine, and as I told you, that book had been listed as an endangered book, The History of Busoga, by Y.K Lubogo. And I gave a courtesy call to that individual, and he had the manuscript. I said, I'm told Y.K Lubogo, my grandfather, read the book. He said, yeah, by the way, I have a copy here, that manuscript. And it was, in that old, that typesetted old method of doing things, pamphlet form, really. And then he told me, yeah, I could lend it to you for 1 or 2 days, but after, please bring it back. I said, why? Why should I bring it back? I thought you were giving it to me. He said, because I'm going to destroy it. And I said, what are you saying? He said, I'm going to destroy it. I said, why are you going to destroy it? He said, because if people read this book, then they'll begin to know how the things of Busoga were done. You know that he had been converted to quote unquote born again. So he thought everything cultural was
Satanic.
that's the word. And so that's the thing. And I'm like,
But he still had a copy of this book.
absolutely. And he said he collected it because he wanted to destroy it. So I was lucky that I found it. That so when he gave it to me, guess what? I never gave it back to him.
Yeah.
And that's how I got to to resurrect the book.
Yeah.
But when I read the book, there was nothing satanic. Actually, to me, it is wonderful history
Yeah.
of the fine people of Busoga, whom I call fine pencils in
Yeah.
God's hand. And that's how the book
Yeah.
got back into circulation.
I think he was trying to figure out how to bring it all together, bring people together.
Right.
And it wasn't around some crazy ideas it was just practical,
Right.
right through their histories and through the people shared ways of burying people and dealing with the land
Stuff
and
like
things
that,
like the marriage.
Right.
So, yeah, I don't think it's
I know. Interesting, Professor Owen. I would like to shed some light in terms of because, in spite of the fact that YK is my grandfather, I sometimes get amazed at the kind of vision of futuristic approach that he had in terms of approach of situation.
Mhm.
This is a gentleman who probably hadn't gone very high in terms of scholarism of sorts. I know he attended King's Budo, the studying of Budo, but I'm amazed that given his timing, he was able to, sit down and do a lot of work in terms of collecting information, which even today, not many of us are actually very vigilant in doing so.
Yeah.
You have had an interaction, you said, with him on one-to-one. How did YK strike you? If you're telling me about YK, I didn't have that one-on-one with him.
Yeah.
Tell me something that I can take away from YK from you.
He was, I respected his humility. When he told me he wasn't sure he wanted to see the book published because it wasn't finished. There was still work to do. He hadn't figured everything out. He didn't trust everything that people had told him. He didn't just take it and say that's true. And for me, if he had said, there's no way you can do a history of Busoga because I did the history of Busoga, I would have maybe respected that and gone and found some other topic. But he gave me a space. He encouraged me to do that. And not many scholars, say, okay, you want to do my work again or do more of my work? No, they don't want that.
Right.
So he was very generous. That's unusual. And a very beautiful person. And I say in the book that one of my big mistakes was not spending more time with him to discuss these things. But it took me many years, way past his death, to understand how hard the work was that he had done in the 1920s and 30s. And people squabbled. He talked about big meetings where people argued.
Right.
And I also found, I was asking people, do you have any books like like notebooks and things like that. And do you have any books? And I think I say in here that no one mentioned Lubogo's book as that they had it. This was 1966 and 67. The book had just been printed, but no one said they had it. But sometimes they mention, Lubogo did historical research, but he never published his book. And I, of course, had studied it for 6 months. I knew every detail. In fact, if I needed to look up a name, I knew exactly where to look up that name.
Absolutely.
So people were telling me that his research wasn't. There were some people were quite critical of him, and but he had produced the book and it came out. And I also note that this committee that published it, that you see, they were supposed to be publishing books in Busoga.
Or Luganda, perhaps.
Yeah, but they translated it to English. So one of the times I went to your grandfather, I asked him about this, and he said, "Well, I have a copy." They knew that there's a copy in Luganda because it was originally typed in Luganda. So he let me take that, and I did a kind of photocopy, like by camera, of most of that book. And I have those pages at home in the archive.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. So it was probably, except for the Bible, his manuscript and typescript in Uganda was the longest work published by a Busoga author.
Wow.
Except for the Bible. By that time, not published, but print, written out.
And you have that somewhere.
I have it somewhere.
Have you put it in soft copy?
Did we?
Scan it and put it in soft copy. Because now we're going the e-way.
The e-way. I can see what I don't have the full book. I may only have the parts of the book that are on the history of the different kingdoms. The first 48 chapters.
Wow, that's interesting, Professor. It's very interesting when people like you who have been here before, and then you decide to come back. What informs you coming back? What particularly did you find in coming back here? And how different is that from what you left?
Okay, so I left around April, I think it was, I'm trying to remember the date. April 10th, 1972.
Okay.
I felt it was impossible to do research. It wasn't safe. I had a family here too.
Okay,
so it wasn't safe. It was not safe. Bad things were happening. And faculty from the university were leaving. Other people were disappearing. So it was not it didn't seem safe. But it also seemed like it was more difficult to do research here. But I had spent a lot of time in Bunafu because I got this idea. I won't try to explain the idea. We don't have time. It's the whole history of doing history and anthropology together. Had the idea of doing a micro study in that community, and that was published as Womanafu's Bunafu in 1977. But I still had not finished the book I had promised. So as I was beginning to get to where Mina was telling me, this is the way you publish, she's very, do you know Mina?
Yes, I do. We belong to the same corporate group.
She's very sophisticated about what's happening in publication and knows a lot more about the changes in the publications than I do. And she was advising me to, how to print the book and how we would distribute it, and there will be an online open access version coming out in a couple months, so people anywhere can get it free. And because I don't like paywalls, like you go on the internet and you find something at Cambridge University Press and they say, yeah, you can have this for $75, and you can look at it. I don't like that at all. And I know the authors don't like it. They don't make any money from that paywall. And so few people pay that the Cambridge doesn't make any money either. So why was I coming back? I just felt like I wanted to come back and give the book and meet people again and see people, but I have not a former student, but a PhD from Michigan who teaches at McGarry. He's very active, and he was the supervisor of William, Dr. William Musamba here, and he wanted me to come back, or was going to help me come back. And I know him quite well, even outside of African history. My neighbors at home are his godparents.
Oh, wow.
So it means a lot, the connection. They're very close friends, and I felt I could come back. I wanted to come back. You asked me how things had changed.
Right.
I couldn't believe how Kampala, I first arrived from Entebbe at night, so I didn't really see Entebbe. But when I got up the next morning and went off to do something, Kampala is completely changed. When I left in 72, it was very sleepy, kind of a small town.
Right.
It wasn't even the capital, as I remember.
Oh.
Entebbe was still the capital,
okay.
Right? Am I right?
It was a colonial capital, yes.
I mean, a lot of ministries and so forth were in Kampala. And the Asians were beginning to leave there quietly before they were actually expelled. So, it is a quiet place now. It has more buzz, than New York City. I mean, just so much going on, so much creativity, so much activity. People working at the university when I left. People were frightened when I left in 1972. They were frightened and they weren't being paid. I think they weren't getting their salaries regularly, and now people are working very hard. William and his colleagues are just working very hard.
Something about the Y.K Lubogo. I thought it's something that I came across a few years ago and it was made my archival research. There is a lot of correspondence in the archives by the Abataka Association.
Right.
Choosing Lubogo. Actually, if there is any officer who was accused the most, I think it was Lubogo. And I remember reading somewhere at one time, all the Bataka groups had a meeting and passed a resolution to the colonial government that Lubogo should be fired. We no longer want him here in the Busoga administration. But I have never seen anywhere where Lubogo fired back. He kept doing his work. Kept doing what he knew was right. He never at any one time struck back. So when he talked about his humility, that came to my mind. And could be that's the reason why.
Right.
So it's quite interesting.
It is interesting, and in fact, one of the things that I think are takeaways of Y.K Lubogo is that I could argue that he was a man ahead of his time, in the sense that many of the things that we see today that resonate with the current world, he had actually seen them a little bit ahead, and that's what amazes all of us in terms of writing, for example, in terms of how he asserted himself, even when he was sent to represent Ethiopia after the incarceration in Ethiopia. Where he went and presided over the Bagavulas and brought about order, and then when he was actually the clerk in Jinja, and of course being the first black African mayor in Jinja, and being a Ziwondo, Bulamoji, at the same time coming this side. So all those things, and also the relationship with his, of course, first cousin, the white Ezekiel Wako, and also going to King's College Budu, and then starting with schools like Wanyange, Cathedral, and then, Busoga College Mwini. All that amazes me because even now we have these people, but we don't see them asserting themselves in terms of fundamental footsteps. And that to me speaks a lot in terms of, that's why I was so much interested in you who has had a one-on-one with him as a person who comes from the other, diaspora, how that affected you, what impact it had on you as a scholar then, perhaps a young scholar.
Yeah. I'm not sure I can answer that question like that, but there is this way of doing research where experts don't really account for the people that are helping them develop their expertise. And so I started to see that I was in a kind of lineage of Y.K Lubogo, and before him, the people he interviewed, and other people who he may not have met, all the way back into the 19th century. There was one person I interviewed several times, Dowdy Waiswa. He named people from the 19th century that he had learned history from, and Benekant's Gabali Echiri had worked on a history like in 1919 or something like that. They tried to do a history of Luka, and he helped in that project when he was quite young. And I feel like these people, I'm just another. Now I've come to understand that these people were producing histories they were hearing from other people, and they were putting together. This is my big theoretical argument. They were putting together fragments of knowledge that they heard, they learned, and that everyone all the time was putting together fragments of knowledge. It's not that people in the 19th century, 1850, were waiting to hear what their history was. They were producing history in their everyday lives. They needed it. The mothers, the grannies, and so forth were all doing history. So that's something I learned along the way, and I think Y.K Lubogo was the first person to make me think about that, because he was someone I could not ignore. I could not say, oh, he's an old guy. It isn't real history what he was doing, or maybe he's just a primary source to quote, but rather he was a historian at work, and I was very interested in the production process of his work.
Interestingly, I'm reading here, I said the historical tradition of Busoga, Mukama and Chintu, that was published in 1972. I was just at Chira College, I was meeting the headmaster who happens to be Mr. Chin. And he told me about this. He told me about his grandfather who had written something about the Busoga people, And he was quoting this, he said, and I said, he's saying, I think there's only one manuscript somewhere. And now I'm seeing it here, I'm trying to correlate what he told me just this morning, if I came to meet you.
You have a copy of it?
No, he said he will look around and see.
So Mina and her husband, when I met them in 2014, they had already digitized for their private use all my publications. And then they made them available on a stick. And the stick is either here or in my suitcase in the van. But it's very hard I don't have a computer, so it's very hard to transfer it. But I am very happy to send you an electronic version of that book. And I realized from being around here that yesterday I realized that people were not aware that book exists. There's another, like Lubogo's book, no one knows that it was written because it didn't. Oxford University Press didn't circulate it in Uganda in this way.
Wow, that's interesting. So I've just had a discussion. I was trying to do a recording of my. I can argue and say now he's my friend. Born in 1943, Washington D.C., David William Cohen is a professor emeritus of anthropology and the history at the University of Michigan. He taught at Johns Hopkins University, 1968 to 89, and at Northwestern University from 1989 to 93. He was awarded a PhD at the University of London in 1970 after completing a BA at the University of Wisconsin. With further studies at the London School of Economics, he joined the faculty of the University of Michigan in 1993, where he was the founding director of the International Institute. He has done field research in Uganda and Kenya from 2010 through 2023. He was an honorary research fellow at the Archive Public Culture Research Initiative at the University of Cape Town. And today I hosted him here in the homes of Y.K Lubogo, one of the homes of Y.K Lubogo, I could argue, because he gave this to his son, Kamikunya. And that's why we decided to honor you here by visiting you so that you can recollect some of those memories with the Y.K Lubogo. And of course, I'm grateful to Doctor from the History Department, Makerere University, who was able to bring you here. And we're thankful, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You take some still pictures?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.